داخل میدان خواب گوش کنه برادر یه اروپا وحشته که فعلا به کابل موجوده زن و مرد پیر و جوان همگی
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webcast entitled The Bridge. My name is Liberty, and we have also on our webcast we have Tony, who's the operations guy, doing all our OBS work. We have Victor and Mr. Sun, and I will allow Mr. Victor and Mr. Sun just to say a quick hello.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
We have a jam-packed schedule here, so we're going to dive right in. Obviously, welcome to everybody. And so we have seen just a video of the what's happened to some of these that Miles Guo wrote with some professionals, and how they have done so incredibly well on the music charts. Now, you know, it's easy to lose sight of what the actual meaning and you know the purpose of this music is. It's not just nice music to dance to and feel together about. It's you know it's deeper than that, and as part of the whistleblower movement, we're always trying to understand the underlying meanings behind what Miles is trying to achieve, and we're not always successful, but we will try to do so. So when we listen to this music and we see what he is doing with it, we ask ourselves, you know, what's the purpose here? And I think by listening to Miles and kind of putting together our thinking about it, we realize that Miles has talked many times about you know all these various high-profile clubs that have been around for hundreds of years, some of them, and what he's trying to achieve through G clubs is something similar. In fact, something even more spectacular. So, and we've also heard him talk about you know how we should behave and how we should all be training ourselves, the whistleblower movement, to be a cohesive, you know, quote unquote club, right? And what do we mean by that? We mean a unified, a cohesive group following common rules and actions, right? Also, it shows, you know, what's happened to these songs. It shows the power of the whistleblower movement ultimately, and that's really what we're trying to achieve. Not just to have power for power's sake, but to influence the world positively. This music also clearly seeing, you know, other people who are not in the movement, don't know nothing about the movement, will look at these charts and they'll ask themselves, you know, who is this Miles Guo guy? And by extension, what is the whistleblower movement about? Right. So there's a lot of that as well. The other thing is to generate opposition and potentially awaken, enlighten the nationalism of the people in Mongolia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Xinjiang, and the Laobaixing in general in China to take matters into their own hands, to throw off the yoke, the evil yoke of the CCP's power, and ultimately, you know, ultimately the purpose is to drive the CCP crazy, right? We're you know, the whistleblower movement attacking the CCP from all kinds of directions, financials and certainly through now Miles through this music. You know, seeing Miles on videos all across China, whether it be on VPN or wherever it is obviously driving the CCP crazy, and they're trying to stamp us out with everything they have, you know, money and everything else, and influence. And basically, lastly, I want to say is just the fine point on it is to drive the CCP crazy and realize there's nothing that the whistleblower cannot do, and we will not go away. Will not give in, right, until they're gone. So we just want to mention that about the music, because everybody needs to realize it's more than just the music, right? Okay, so having said that, I'm not going to allow Victor and Mr. Sun to have anything to say about that. We agreed about that before the show. So we're just going to go straight into the next topic. So I can ask Tony to run off with video 2, 3, and 4, all put together, and then afterwards we will comment on that, okay? Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole. The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
Stephanie.
阿富汗塔利班方面呢，多次表示希望同中方发展良好关系，期待中方参与阿富汗重建与发展，绝不允许任何势力利用阿富汗领土做危害中国的事情。我们对此表示欢迎。长期以来，中方始终尊重阿富汗的主权独立和领土完整，始终不干涉阿富汗内政，始终奉行面向全体阿富汗人民的友好政策。中方尊重阿富汗人民自主决定自身命运前途的权利，愿意继续同阿富汗发展睦邻友好合作关系，为阿富汗和平与重建发挥建设性作用。
Hello, we're back. So, as you can tell, everyone can tell, these are the very current events from Afghanistan, which is a huge topic on the world stage at the moment. I'm not going to say much about it. I'm going to pass it right off to Victor for his comments. Go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, you can see that's a chaos in Afghanistan. It's so devastating, and people just so desperate. They don't know what to do, and then they just try to grab the last fight, whatever they can be survived. So that's how desperate is that. And then as a human being, right, you just cannot help that. Okay, what if that happens to me? So, and is that would be the next, if in case something happened in China like this, and what would be our brothers and sisters, families, relatives will do, right? So this is so desperately devastating. Like when we just watching the news, you can feel it. So I think that's definitely a human crisis, in the rise as well, because they said that the Taliban is searching for they asked the girls over 12 years to register, force them to get married, something like that. So that's definitely, we can see that once the Taliban fully in power, what is going to happen to the Afghanistan people.
Mr. Sun, what do you think? What do you think of the CCP's involvement in all this? Do you think there's a role that they've played?
Well, definitely, and they have been engaged in this war for a long time, and only that it show the world. Remember, before this, they inviting the Taliban into China. They showcase, hey, we're working with you, right? And this is the way they doing this for years, and for years it just now used to be BYG, right? It's a hidden, it's a software, but this is really showing they play the hardball. The hardball, the American, the Western, you have to learn how to play the hardball, and they will not play just this. They will plan to Cuban, those Venezuela. It will play last time in Iran, so they play every place. So they will not give up, and it's successful so many years. I mean, there's a lot of Westerner, Wall Street, Hollywood, a lot, politicians got involved, right? They keep a silence. Probably only us, or a few small media, tell the truth, and that's the way keep doing the show, and awaken the Western, and especially American up. So that's my take. And they will not give up. They are fighting to the death, because if you know what is communist manifestation, they are really, they saying we are the enemy of the capitalist. So Western is capitalist. If you believe capitalist, they believe in totalitarianism. That's the way they believe. I mean, they in their blood, right? They're not give up. They're fighting. They're winning right now at the moment.
Victor, what do you think of the where does Biden and the U.S. stand now? I mean, in terms of, we heard Biden say at the beginning of those videos, I think it was, I can't remember how long ago, but he basically said that we will never see a U.S. retreating in an unruly way, an unorganized way out of Afghanistan. We will never see people being evacuated from the top of the U.S. embassy by helicopter, and now that's exactly what we're seeing. How do you think, Victor, that the U.S. and Biden are being viewed by the rest of the world right now?
I think that they totally lost credibility. Also, President Biden also claimed that blame the Mr. Trump, the former U.S. president, said that he made this decision. He made the decision to move from Afghanistan. But the thing is that Trump reacting that because there's a condition, right? So there's a condition to evacuate. It's not like this. It's not like this chaos. It's how you operate it. So I think Biden totally lost the credibility in front of the whole world, and after they spending so much money in the last 20 years. So that's really a damage. There's a PR damage for the U.S. credibility and the U.S. military, how they can control the modern kind of war, or if they are really that capable to do any modern war in any situation. So that's really a damage to the whole U.S.
Mr. Sun, Victor just pointed out. Victor just pointed out that Trump had attached conditions to the removal of U.S. troops. Right? They had negotiated with the Taliban. Right? So why do you have any ideas about why you think the Biden administration decided not to follow through on that plan?
Well, I'm not sure they didn't follow through the plan, and the whole idea is in the Western world, and that's why CCP keep winning. In the Western world, beside the law, the freedom, and everything, they follow the promise, the agreement, and CCP just opposite. And they on the paper they say, but on the underground do just opposite. I think the Western world, if you play the fair game with the CCP, it right play in their hand. This is the way. Probably the agreement with Afghanistan, whatever it is, there is agreement, and the American do their way and Afghanistan do their way. But those Afghanistan somehow BYG by the CCP, so American follow their way, but those guys Africans, they didn't follow the rule, didn't follow the agreement, so just totally gave up. I think that's they played the greedy, the weakness of human nature, and this always work, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. In fact, that's exactly what I was thinking too, right? I mean, the Americans always have the same naive reaction pretty much every time now, both in business and in trade and commerce, and now we've seen it in Afghanistan. I think you're entirely right. And I think what we heard from Miles is that after that Tianjin meeting, the U.S. and CCP, the CCP actually left the United States with an ultimatum. You follow, you do what we tell you to do, these 3 or 4 or 5 things, or you're gonna be in trouble. And this is exactly what happened. So what about Taiwan? Do you think this has any, Victor, do you think this has any, what do you think Taiwan is feeling right now? The leaders in Taiwan after what's happened in Afghanistan, does it have an impact on what's happening and the allies that the Quad, for example, and particularly Taiwan? Does that have what's happened in Afghanistan have any impact on what they're thinking?
I don't know what they're thinking, but for me, if I were the people in Taiwan, I would think that I would question that, is the U.S. really that powerful as they claim, or what's the operation of the current administration, how they do that? Because actually, according to the Wall Street Journal, Biden met with the several heads of the armed forces to discuss the withdrawal of the American forces from the Central Asian nation. The military gave them professional advice, but Biden reportedly rejected the advice of the top military generals, and he just rejected those professional advice, and because they suggest them that they need to negotiate with the Taliban for a peaceful deal, but Biden ignored it. So that's why how this happens. So what happened in Taiwan? In case something happened in Taiwan, if the military gave Biden some advice, I'm not sure what he's gonna do. So I think now, if I were people in Taiwan, I will have this question. So, are they capable? Are the top head of the U.S. military, do they really have the right judgment to do whatever, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Guys, also, I mean, Afghanistan has been a sinkhole. It's been a quagmire for every army that ever tried to conquer it, right? I mean, I don't know if I've got all the history right, but I mean, the British tried way back a long time ago, and then the Russians, right? And now the Americans have been run out on a rail as well. So now we have the CCP, right, infiltrated and probably, well, we know, supporting the Taliban, which is the next government. What do you think? What do you think Afghanistan, Mr. Stam? Do you think the Taliban and the Afghanistan is that going to have an impact on the CCP as well? Is it going to have a positive impact or a negative impact? Because every power that has ever touched and tried to do anything with Afghanistan has not succeeded. In fact, it's had a horrible impact on their own politics and on their own military fighting forces. What do you think? What's going to happen with the CP and trying to deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan? Hard to know, but
well, number one, for those brainwashed the Chinese inside China, they were excited and they think, you know, they can control the whole thing. Definitely, for those people believed, still follow the CCP, being brainwashed, they so excited. They say, "Oh, we are strong. We can, turn down a country so easily," and that's for that part. But for Western, for the Western, there's like a wake and call, and those people they had, they can do this. They better prepared, and better play the hardball. Otherwise, the CCP keep up to you. So whereas it will come up to you. It's for real. And in that, to go back to Taiwan, right? This also apply to Taiwanese. At the end, it's about the Taiwanese. How many people want to stand up? They will do the same thing if they were that's the first option. The military is second option or maybe third option. The first option, remember, is thorough BYG. So BYG enough Taiwanese, so they will give up themselves, just like Taliban. That's much easier to do.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's, if Western decide, okay, we let the Taiwanese run the show, then they will not work. You have to treat it like a World War II when you fight the Nazis and Imperial Japanese. You got fighting them and put, surround them, then they will follow you. Otherwise, they don't. This you can't. I'm happy to say this is sad. There's a human life got involved, right? Although maybe the technology, and it just, I think that in a sense, the Western, like Mao pointed out, is greedy. It's about money. It's too much about money. There's a love of the money. It is the whole thing, and
it's a religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, become a religion. So that's my take. So they will fight, they will fight, and that's why, Xi prepared the military to invade Taiwan. They prepared. They will do everything, Total North Korea totally control. Now they, and by the way, they even going to completely, there's the other country, what I forgot and they play this. You remember that there's I forgot Cambodia, right? The other country, right? They played it, and so that's my take.
So, Victor, just playing off that and talking about Taiwan, do you think that there's a chance that the CCP will take advantage of this loss of credibility of the United States and this sort of chaos in Afghanistan to do something in Taiwan? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think definitely they are looking for every opportunity, because now with the virus, all the whole world is chasing that what's the origin of the virus, and almost certain that it's from the Wuhan lab. I think definitely they try to use this opportunity to against the U.S. And also Xi Jinping has this dream of uniting the whole China, and then he will be surpassed Mao Zedong as the number one emperor in the history. So he really has this ambitious, and he doesn't care about the people's death or whatever. He just doesn't care. He just want to make himself looks good, and also have everything under his control, and make the CCP long like the CCP side. That's what he hopes.
Yes. One last thing, Mr. Sun. So here's a leading question, okay? So you better get it right. Who benefits the most from all this chaos?
Well, ultimately it's us, right? And remember, so when they play by this, so the vacant Western world, they see what is other choice beside the CCP. What is the other choice? How we can, we have to fight in the Western world. They have to realize, just like World War II, when Nazi invaded here and there, the American take so long to drive into it, and the British, they invite American many times. Basically your motherhood, all those ancestors will be gone if you not give a hand. It take a long time to America maybe do the same thing this time. They will do the same thing. They will what is basically what they do. Army lost. Who cares, right? Those people have money. Wall Street, it's money lost there, right? So I think they will do the same thing. They lose more background until they finally realize, right? And maybe take another year or another 2 years, because they also have that's called bear effect. From Republican to Democrat. Other party do nothing. Our other party always against the other one, right? So this have they intentionally don't do that. So again, to answer your question back, ultimately, it's new federal state China, our wealth movement will benefit the most.
Brilliant. I knew you would come up with the right answer. We didn't rehearse that, by the way, right? We didn't.
No, we don't.
No, perfect. Well done. All right. So I think we can leave that topic now. It's something we will continue to follow. We'll move on to topic 3, Tony. And just before we run that video, number 5, I believe it is. When you watch this, I just want the audience to keep in mind, please, this is a video of George Soros. Yeah, it's number 5. But just a minute. I just want to say that George Soros is in himself is a devil. He's been the front for globalism, and so I want you to keep that in mind when you watch this video. Go ahead, Tony, with number 5, please. It says number 5. 1 point.
It's number 5. No, not that one. Yeah, this one.
Yes.
China is not the only authoritarian regime in the world, but it's undoubtedly the wealthiest, strongest, and most developed in machine learning and artificial intelligence. This makes Xi Jinping the most dangerous opponent of those who believe in the concept of open society. But Xi isn't alone. Authoritarian regimes are proliferating all over the world, and if they succeed, they will become totalitarian. As the founder of the Open Society Foundations, I've devoted my life to fighting totalizing extremist ideologies which falsely claim that the ends justify the means. I believe that the desire of people for freedom can't be repressed forever. But I also recognize that open societies are profoundly endangered at present. What I find particularly disturbing is that the instruments of control developed by artificial intelligence give an inherent advantage to authoritarian regimes over open societies. For them, instruments of control provide a useful tool. For open societies, they pose a mortal threat.
The White House admits.
Yeah. So to me, that is an outlandish video, an outlandish statements by Mr. Soros, given his background, and we'll go into that in a little more depth. But Mr. Sun, what's your first reaction to that video?
Well, you know, that show you the friend already starting, you know, show their division about the whole. But remember, it's all totalitarianism. At the final, they will separate, like Stalin and Mao, and they Stalin fighting with. At the beginning, they follow the Mao, follow Stalin. Then they fighting each other, because dominance, control, right? Ultimately, they will go to different direction. You know, this Xi want to totally go his own way, and you know he want, you know, feel the pulse of the, you know, the whole world. He gave the direction and created their system. You know, the world should be follow their modern days slave system. So it changed the way George Soros want to do, right? You know, that's the way it will dictator do. We will debate each other, right? So that's my take. They ultimately they will not unite each other. You know, I'm also show you. You know, is George Soros not that dumb enough to align with the Xi?
Yeah, so it sounds as though, you know, I'm pretty convinced that Soros originally thought the Xi was going to be. I mean, I think Soros is very close in his own mind. He talks about open society, right? But his definition of open society is far left of what my idea of an open society is. And I think suddenly Soros has realized that Xi is Xi's crazy behavior recently, he's realized that this guy is an actual threat to even his worldview, which is far left of most of the world. What do you think, Victor?
I think now he realized that the CCP is collapsing soon, and also that because of the violence and CCP's nature is control everything. They will once they get what they want, they can easily blow any promise they gave to the world. So they can promise you the moon before, and then right after that, yeah, they can break it anytime. So there's no commitment. They have no credibility. They just break everything, and then whatever they can use, whatever benefits them, they will do that. So that's a totalitarian, right? So so I think that he realized that at the end it might also damage himself, and also maybe it's hurt himself, something like that, or maybe his image would be once associated with the CCP might not be look good. I think that is more the damage control for himself right now.
I think that's brilliant, Victor. I think that's exactly right. I think that he's, you know, again, he has this extreme left view of the, you know, like this globalist view of what the world should look like, and he sees threatening that view, but by threatening that view, it's threatening himself and his credibility. Yeah, I think that's completely right. Do you remember, Mr. Sun? Do you remember? You know, Deng Xiaoping, he had a certain view of the world order, right? And how China should coexist or not with the West. And that has led to some, you know, I guess animosity between Xi and Deng Xiaoping for a long time. How do you think that plays into this? I mean, do you have any historical view on how Xi has parted ways with Deng Xiaoping and his view of how China should coexist with the West?
Well, it's more than that. Just history a little bit different. First, I'll talk about Xi. He is we call Red Guard, and he's maybe like 80 years older than me. Just during the Chinese Revolution, he and his family have been brutally imprisoned, you know, and he died even pretended eating the feces to recognize the brother, so and him. So they witness and they suffering. And remember, our human mind, our body, remember those things. So he never have a good education. This is the thing is when you put the people in those evil condition, they become evil. It is part of the reason probably George Soros wants to separate from Xi. So now in terms of Deng, they the same thing, but the Deng somehow because they all suffered under Mao, but Deng is not big suffer like Xi and their family. And there's another reason is related to military, by the way. So Xi and father, and there are a few other ones. They are supposed to leading those North Korea Korean War, and that is leading. And that's part of leading most son died, and they create a lot of the hate of Mao to them. So Mao treating after basically 1950s, they're treating people like really it's just a play, it's a struggling basically. Really class it's the whole Chinese people become like a playground for them, right? So now Deng didn't suffer that much, although he sent you other the rural area. He went to factory. He didn't suffer that much, so his view a little better. But again, it's not much better. But he's still treating people like like rubbish basically. But during that time, Xi's idea is different, right? It's remember when Deng took over. The China really the China in really no food, no nothing. That's what I know, right? And that's the time. So he have to open up, and they pretend humble enough, right? So that's a policy, and that's why they have that time they have this, this called unconventional policy. We not fighting with Western American with missile convention military. We prepared with unconventional war, and part of it is BYG, Another part is, the virus, and then the cyber attack, and all the things people don't understand. Infiltrate every part of Western world, disinformation. So he realized that's, he used software. And, this is the sad part. And in the Bush family, they all basically and basically colluded with this. See, that's why they gave out and basically sold out, 89 and June 4th and Tiananmen Square, and that June 4th, the last time when I was there. So is, historically, because the financial and economic power is different. Now, after those 30 years, China put every piece of real estate, everything have print money. They have a lot of money those years, from 1 trillion to 15 trillion GDP. The big time, that's 20 years. So see, he can, because he, in the meantime, there's still so much technology at the same time also, right? The AI and the virus and all those things, they invest, are prepared. So but his mind, he wants to dominate and control. He wants his own will to control everybody. No, Dong is a little better, right? I'll put it this way. Dong's a little better.
So fair to say maybe that Soros admired Dong, but and he thought that leaders of China, of the CCP, after Dong would follow in the same footsteps, but Xi basically has just gone too far. Victor, do you think that? What do you think of Soros saying this at this time in history? I mean, I think we all realize that what George Soros is saying here is a big, in English you would say, walk down for him. Like he has his complete. To me, it's like a 180-degree turn for him, right? And so these words are extremely important and should not be underestimated at this time in history. Who do you think he's directing these words to? Like this, it's basically almost like a warning, right? Is it a warning to people inside the CCP? Is it a warning to the West? Is it warning to who is he warning with these words, do you think?
I'm not sure what he's thinking or why he's doing this at this time, but from what I observe, I think that's a huge surprise for so many people, because he praised the Xi and praised the Chinese system is better than the US before. So yeah. I think first, I think still related to the pandemic, to the virus, origin of the virus. I think he might see something, and then he can see that the evilness of CCP, the truth will be disclosed soon, and the whole world is gonna condemn the CCP because the huge damage, the lockdown, the pandemic. There's millions of lives lost. I think this is definitely nobody can afford once if you claim that, So I think that he might sense something. He might sense that he doesn't want to be the victim of the CCP to associate with the CCP. So I think he's an evil, but he also very smart. So he sensed that, and then he just want to try to protect himself. I think at this moment it's not. I'm not sure what he's pointing this to, but at least for himself, I think right now, or claim himself that I have nothing to do with CCP.
So let me put this to both of you. Is he sending? I mean, obviously George Soros, who's I don't know how old he is, 80 something now.
91.
When you hear him talk, he almost sounds like Biden. He sort of slurs his speech. I mean, he's kind of at the end of his rope. He has been. The key is that this man has been involved at the top levels of global leadership, talking to all the leaders and all the factions everywhere in the world, practically, right? It's hard to believe, and in fact, it's obvious that he has been involved with the CCP and the different factions inside the CCP. Is it possible that he is sending a direct warning, guy obviously defending himself and protecting his son, etc., but in his own interest. But he's sending a direct warning to sort of the opposing factions inside the CCP, which I guess is the Jiang and the Wang factions, that, hey, now's the time. You know, if you want to survive yourself, and please help me survive too, by the way, do something now. Is that possible, Mr. Sun?
Well, that's possible, always there, but I'm more thinking about the Western alliance, open, society foundation, the people with him, the people, his follower, all his follower, and there's George Soros follower, and all the billionaire, whatever, those group of people, they tell them, hey, we cannot divide by the those Democrat and Republican now. We found out among this guy is more evil than anybody can remember. They will kill us. When the CEOs exist, they will not exist. That's the dictatorship. So he also realized his empire is in danger. And so he kind of warning to the people, all tell them, hey, this is we need to turn, we need to unite. We need to unite with the other party and the other group of people to take down, right? Just that, I think, is more important than the people inside China.
So I think what's interesting in what Mr. Sun just said is that I think many people, on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, for a long time thought that George Soros was a pure communist. Like he was in league with Xi Jinping, or his idea of world order was the same as Xi's and the extreme faction of the CCP. Now what we're getting to realize is that, Victor, what do you think George Soros's world view is? What does he mean by open society? Like how does he view the world under a globalist control? What do you have a sense of what that means?
Victor?
I have no idea what he means, but for me, I totally agree with you that I have a very different view of the leftists. They so-called open society. I think for them it's more like control the whole world instead of open. For me, open should be you have your freedom. You can say whatever you want. You can be not afraid of just saying something. So you should express yourself freely. So that's called open society. So I'm not sure what
I remotely remember and those things.
Yeah, I think you're right, Victor. I think, for me, it is a complete hypocrisy for Soros to say that his organization and he is in search of an open society. I mean, again, to most people, certainly in the West, open would mean, freedom, free speech, and the freedom of the individual to choose their own future to some extent, right? And the government is there to serve the people, not the other way around. Whereas I believe that what Soros, and I know what Soros actually means is, no, this is his view of the world is open society means the Davos crowd view of the world, which is, autocratic rule by the oligarchs, the political and business oligarchs. That's what they mean, right? So that this is what the Bannon keeps referring to as the party of Davos. All those people who fly out to Davos every year to discuss how they're going to control the little people, control the Lao Beijing, not only of China but of the rest of the world, right? To keep prices low, costs low for their production of their companies. And to give people, just like Xi views or Mao views the world, is that just give people just enough to survive, right? But not so much that they have the strength to live their own lives and to demand from government how they want their lives to be. No, they basically want slaves. I mean, this is what Bannon keeps hammering on all the time. So in closing on this topic, I think. So I'll ask the question again. I'll ask it of you, Victor, this time. Who's the biggest beneficiary of this? You know, I think Soros has thrown a kind of a bomb into the whole mix right now. I mean, there used to be that the left and the right were at each other's throats in the world, certainly in Europe and America. We've seen the American politics more like a revolution. Two parties pitted against each other, fighting for at each other's throats, right? Fighting for almost like one-party status. And certainly the Democrats seem to be doing that. Who do you think the biggest beneficiary of what Soros has said might be?
Yeah, from my standpoint, I believe that is the new federal state of China and the W.H.O Bros movement and all their supporters. Because now you can see that they send even Soros, this kind of like the allies of the CCP, they already declared that they have nothing to do with the CCP. They are against the CCP and warning the world that, okay, CCP is the most dangerous enemies. That means that CCP lost another very important allies in the Western world. So this is definitely benefit us, and then just prove that we are right in the beginning. Our goal is to take down the CCP, and CCP is the evil, is the totalitarian. So it's not like because what he said right now, pretty much he overturned what himself claimed. The CCP system is much better than the US one. So
yeah, exactly. Mr. Sun, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I would say, beside will benefit a lot. I think the world will benefit, and world, like I said in our show, we talking about we are in World War III, and whether you recognize it or not, and this war don't have shooting the missile each other, is starting cyber attack to virus, to the disinformation, and to the mixed up with the change the beat of U.S. election. We are there. So George Soros realized at this juncture he had to side aside with the right side of history, right? So I think he chose the right one. He realized she is more dangerous, more evil than he can imagine, right? Yeah. And it only the communists produce those people, right? And so that's back to you.
Yeah, I think my sense is that this speech by Soros is going to go a long way, a huge way in terms of coalescing the West. Bringing the West together to fight a common enemy. Again, coming back to the politics in the United States, they have not been necessarily on the same page as far as this is concerned, and as far as CCP is concerned. The biggest beneficiary is by far is the new federal state of China. As Miles said, it's the only organization which can navigate and direct the West in terms of strategy to a win over the CCP, right? And then also organized China in the aftermath of a win against the CCP. The new federal state, it just raises the new federal state's status tremendously, I believe. And both parties now will be looking to the new federal state to because they're unable, as you both have pointed out, they are completely unable to handle and understand the strategies of the CCP, it seems. And that finally, there's some dawning of the most left-leaning, probably one of the most left-leaning persons in the world, George Soros, has finally come to the conclusion. Like we've been pushing this for years, that the CCP is pure evil. They're even more than that. They're sadistically evil, right? And the West has not been, yeah, we know they've been driven by profit, but more than that, they've been just completely naive to the possibility, and I've said this so many times, the possibility that this evil still exists in the world. Now we have George Soros, like he's the standard bearer for the party of Davos and globalism in the world, coming to our side to some degree, right? Or at least taking a step to our side. So what's this going to do for the left in America, right? When their standard bearer is going to the center as it regards the CCP, they're going to realize, holy smokes, he's right, you know, and that's going to go a long way for coalescing of ideas and you know, in the United States between I believe the Republicans and the Democrats on this one issue, if nothing else, right? The Democrats are still going to be crazy about various other social issues, but so I think that's the biggest benefit. Clearly, is the new federal state of China, and we know that our trusty leader Miles is. I mean, everything he has said has been bang on, and there comes a time when even the leaders who have been, you know, to some extent taking his advice, they've been listening to him. A lot of the leaders around the world are beginning to, but some of the American leaders have not fully. But there comes a time when you're right so many times, right, about what's going to happen in the world, and it happens exactly the way that Miles says. There comes a time when you can no longer deny that this the person, you know, Miles Guo is the one person you got to go to in order to tell you how to deal with the CCP. And I think we're getting close to that time. Yeah. And I think most of us also probably don't realize how much we do. How much national leaders in the world are already coming to Miles. And we also know that these historically important clubs, the people who are in the families who are in these clubs are coming to Miles. And he's told us there are, you know, dozens and dozens, if not more than that, families who are in these clubs who have invested in the G series. And these are the real leaders and the real power behind the power in the world. So we should all be optimistic and in terms of where we're going. So having said all that, let's move to, it looks like we're going to have time for topic 4. If I could ask Tony, could you play that video 6 under topic 4 for us, please?
That the collapse of Afghanistan occurred more quickly than his administration anticipated. The president made this acknowledgement during a national television address from the White House late Monday afternoon. The president's remarks come as Afghanistan fell to the Taliban over the weekend. Now, switching gears, California GOP Congressman Devin Nunes has scored a major legal win in his defamation case against the Washington Post in connection to false reporting. A federal judge has ruled that while there is insufficient evidence to show the Post was negligent when it falsely reported Nunes advocated President Trump's unfounded claim that Trump Tower was wiretapped, there was enough evidence of actual malice to proceed. The ruling means that Nunes, who helped unravel the bogus Russia collusion probe, can proceed to discovery against the Jeff Bezos-owned publication. And finally, former Michigan Congressman Paul Mitchell passed away on Sunday following a stage 4 renal cancer diagnosis last month. Mitchell left the Republican Party in December of 2020 over its questioning of the 2020 presidential election results. The former congressman was 64 years old. And that's a wrap for today's Just the News Now. To find the latest headlines, please visit justthenews.com.
Looks like this is not the right article. So under that link, there should be one about the W.H.O. You see that one, Tony? When I click on that link,
origins
when I click on that link, there's a video there about the WHO and
deserves a closer look. The organization saying, quote, WHO is committed to following the science And we call on all governments to put differences aside and work together to provide all data and access required so that the next series of studies can be commenced as soon as possible. Joining us now is Jamie Metzl, one of the members of the WHO's Advisory Committee. For months now, you've had the World Health Organization downplaying this lab leak theory. So now why the reversal and the need for more information?
Just to be clear, the World Health Organization itself hasn't been downplaying the likelihood of a lab incident origin. It was an international expert committee that was doing so. And actually, Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the WHO, has been pretty strong, saying we have to examine all hypotheses. But this international committee, which in my view very shamefully announced in February of this year in a joint press event in China alongside their Chinese government counterparts that a lab incident origin was extremely unlikely, and those are their words. It now turns out they were essentially lying, that the leaders of this international committee actually believed a lab incident origin ranged from unlikely to likely, but that they did a deal with their Chinese government counterparts who didn't want to mention a lab incident origin at all. And so the deal was, well, we'll mention this possibility, and then we'll say it's extremely unlikely and not call for a further investigation. And so the leader of that independent expert committee has now essentially come clean. It's just outrageous that this happened. And that's why the entire world must come together in demanding a full investigation into the origins of the pandemic in China with full access to all relevant record samples and personnel.
Well, we know.
And I'm a progressive Democrat, and I disagreed with a lot of what President Trump said, but he happened to possibly be right in the allegations he was making about the origins of the pandemic. And then the mainstream media and scientific journals, and again, I say this as a progressive, didn't tell the story that needed to be told. And so now we need to get to the bottom of this. Our safety and the safety of our children and grandchildren depend on understanding what went wrong and fixing our problems.
So isn't it interesting? We have the CCP rattling their saber about Taiwan. We have the CCP involved in Afghanistan, and American troops, airlifting embassy staff off the roof in Kabul. And I mean, this if we think that the CCP and C is not under pressure by this, again, the whole genocide Xinjiang thing, and now the whole world basically realizes that the CCP is guilty of releasing a biological weapon, and now we know that the group that went to investigate basically was infiltrated and bought off, and this is all of these things are coming together, right? The pressure on the CCP to change the channel on the conversation, and we know that the CCP will do anything and is crazy enough to do anything to change the channel on that conversation. So, Victor, what do you think of this video? And this, I can't remember. This news came out, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, but it's been developing now. But I think we find out that there's actually truly the international committee was outright lying, and the head of the committee was outright lying. I think he even admitted it, right? What do you think of this news?
I think it helps for the region of the violence of the truth, because there's so many they're questioning that is this impossible that is a lab leak and impossible from the Wuhan lab. But now they obviously this possibility is open right now, and then they will give more serious consideration and research for this again. So I think that it helps, and also helps the truth to come up earlier. Also, I think that the pressure from the evidence from the scientists around the world, the researchers around the world, and so they know that they cannot cover it up anymore. So whoever have done something wrong before, I think that they are really scared of the punishment after this. So I think that some people are really scared right now. But the thing is that the truth will cannot be covered. I think that eventually it will come out. Even we have knew that for a while, and then we have the evidence. But still, I think that it's good that the WHO finally officially admit that they make a mistake before. Even they changed that. Yeah, even they changed whatever they said.
Yeah, I was just, as you were speaking, I was just writing something down, which you said. You know, will more whistleblowers come out right now? Because the fear, I mean, you can feel it almost. The fear is setting in, right? I mean, George Soros comes out and says what he said. You can tell there's fear in him. And if there's fear in him, who else is going to feel fear in the world? All the people who have covered up and who have been BGY'd and who have been paid off and who have been, yeah. Mr. Sun, what do you think of this this development?
Well, I'm thinking this is still related with the American, whether they mean the business or not. Those WHO international experts, right? They know they haven't done a good job there so far. But, you know, but it's whether they go out and really tell the truth because they BYG by CCP, and whether Western world really mean business. The people died so many or whatever, you know. Are we really serious to holding who responsible or just pass away, we use money? It's so far in the past, just money will buy them out. And so those experts, those people know what's going on. They are still looking around. Are you guys really mean business or not? Right? Even the, you know, that doctor is, you know, whatever Tando is, you know, wishy-washy, just like a Dr. Fauci, you know, flip-flop all the time. So why they do that? You know, if you know the truth, only one truth, right? And so we'll hope American, you know, Western really mean business. They will go back to holding responsible. That means who will create the virus will hold responsible. That means, you know, those guys have to tell the truth. In the East WHO, and that's, you know, in a sense good, because George Soros, they say, this we are concerning lab leak now, right? Not just that's what they're thinking, right? So I think the wave push our side a little bit. I don't know how long, and they maybe go back again.
Jamie Metzel in that interview said something which struck me. He said that that Tedros, you know, has always been, WHO, meaning Tedros, has always been strong about the need for a thorough investigation into the Wuhan lab and so on. Victor, do you think what do you think of that statement? Can you fill us in a little bit on the history of what we know about this character Tedros?
Yeah, I think he definitely it's Xi's allies, because he just I think at the beginning of the pandemic, right? There's a picture showing that he was went to Beijing to visit President Xi, and then at that time he looks like he just looks like a subordinate instead of WHO General Secretary. I think he just like Xi Jinping's subordinate or whatever. Yeah, he looked at the way he looked at Xi Jinping, and then the way he almost like knelt down, and then the way he walked towards Xi Jinping. So I think that there's no doubt that something behind. So even though that we don't have the proof evidence right now, I think somebody has, yeah, but not us. But the thing is that from his history, because he covered up another pandemic in his own country, and also that from his history and how he has been elected. All behind that is the CCP. So he visited China so many times, and every time he just like, we don't know the deal, but the thing is that the BGY program in the US, and then they have been doing that around the world for so many years for all the organizations, WHO, UN, and also the WTO. So I think that definitely something behind. And now I think the most scared person may be Tedros and also maybe Fauci right now, I think. Because the whole pandemic, right? Think about that. Now it's over 20 million people contracted, and also over 4 million people passed away with the new variants coming up so quickly. Now there's another one from Belgium, and then the Lambda, and then there's the Delta is in the rise and make us in the four-way in Ontario. So I think that definitely something. It doesn't mean that, but maybe he has to say something right now to declare that he's doing something. He is serious about the like doing the search of the origin of the COVID.
Yeah. Mr. Sun, do you believe Jamie Metzl when he says that Tedros has been a strong advocate of looking into the true nature of the virus? I'm not hearing you, Mr. Sun.
So no, I don't believe he's journeying to find out the truth the virus came from, and he flip-flop. Because the WHO is independent. I don't know how we can hold him responsible now. If there's no war, don't take down CCP. I think we cannot use the criminal and the law the law in the wartime. So it take a while to find out, and it take a lot of evidence. We have to go to judicial system. And so he's embedded with CCP. He will not easily change it. It's very hard to dislocate with that.
Yes, that's the point. He's in bed with the CCP. I mean, that's the overriding point. I think everybody needs to realize, and I think we've talked about this before. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. I mean, I think it was Ethiopia he's from, and all the funding and involvement of the CCP in that part of Africa when he was a high official there was enormous. And again, as Victor points out, he became Director General of the W.H.O. because of the CCP. I mean, he was basically installed he was the favorite candidate of the CCP. There's no doubt in my mind that he has been BG-wide and has been doing the CCP's bidding ever since his early days in Ethiopia. So, and also he was in the early days of the virus. He was the naysayer. He was basically saying or agreeing that had nothing to do with CCP, PLA or a lab or anything. It was all from nature. So now suddenly, just like George Soros, he's turned scared, and he's seen the light, and he realizes in order to save himself and save the world that he knows, he's got to come on side with our thinking finally. Victor, you mentioned the new variants, and I see we have maybe another 5 minutes or so. The new variants. I just picked up a report which talks about how the FDA, Federal Drug Enforcement Administration, issued a black box warning, that's what they call it, that the mRNA vaccines can cause cardiac injury. Finally, they have they have paid attention to all the adverse effects from the virus database, and they've actually forced the companies, the mRNA pharmaceutical companies, to issue black box warnings for these vaccines. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think this means? And I mean, I remember listening to a video of maybe it was Malone or someone, Dr. Malone, who said historically, when you look at the vaccine development, there was one vaccine which had 36 adverse events when the vaccine started being injected into people. And I don't remember what disease it was for. Nonetheless, 36 adverse events, and they pulled the vaccine. In other words, they canceled the rollout of that vaccine. That was back in 1976 or something. And here now we strongly believe that the adverse effects for these mRNA vaccines have been first of all, highly underreported, maybe by as much as a factor of 10. And even as it stands, it's in the, tens of thousands in the US. So what do you think this black box warning means, and what do you think it's enough? Do you think it's enough? I don't know if you read that, but it's quite a stand down by the FDA, to put this warning on. What do you think of that? What's your impression of that?
Fill in the audience if they don't know what is a black box warning. It's also called a box warning. Just a little square that they tell you the US FDA, they have certain medicine. They said that okay, carry serious safety risk. Pretty much is a warning. It's a serious warning. Only when there's a serious warning or maybe light threatening, they will put this black box. So they should have done that earlier. For me, I don't know why they just do it right now. So I think that means that they know that there is lots of cases. The side effect is under-reporting, and now they just try to do some damage control. So they make that to show that okay, we are responsible. We are the FDA. But actually, it's a little bit too late for me. But it's good. Yeah, at least people realize that okay, there is a serious side effect, safety risk for the health. They will think about that when they look at this black box.
Yeah, I think that this is, as you said, is covering their rear end. It's damage control, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that they have much more to answer for than just putting a black box warning on these vaccines. It also states that the warning notes that reports of adverse events follow vaccination, particularly after second and third doses. And now we're hearing about these, booster shots, right? Apparently 2 shots is not enough, because what we're hearing is that from doctors again like Dr. Malone and Zelenko, we're hearing that the efficacy, particularly of the Pfizer, is as low as 47%, and 47% is actually like tossing a coin. Is it going to be heads? Is it going to be tails? Like a 50-50 proposition. So the efficacy of these vaccines, it's extremely low now, and becoming much lower. And the reason is, as Malone points out, and Zelenko point out, and others, and Luc Montagnier point out, that this antibody-dependent enhancements is happening, which means the breakthrough infections of people who have been fully vaccinated, which means that they can get infected. And so, Mr. Sun, what do you make of all this? I mean, we're hearing that we're supposed to take all these vaccines, and yet we're hearing all these warnings coming out, and we're hearing the efficacy is falling, and yet they want to put booster shots in us, and they also want to give us vaccine passports. What do you make of all this?
What do I make of it? The vaccine people, the pharmaceutical want to make money. They already make money already. And the sad part is the world still majority of people taking the vaccine, and most people, I would say most people, I would say when they most, it's over 60% or 70% people, they never question what they put in our body, and this is the sad part. And now I think it's good in a sense, at least for those people don't take it, have knowledge enough, and they will say, hey, I'm right? I don't need to take it. But the damage, if everything proved to be right, is already done, and they have those genetic, they can translate into DNA, they stay with your body, and that will manifest maybe 2 years, 3 years in internet generation. In fact, Dr. Luke Montagnier, the Nobel Prize winner for, he told me those RNA, mRNA will stay with the body, and they will change some of the function inside the cell. So we have not really invested this vaccine. It typically takes 5 to 10 years. Now we use human whole world population to the impairment. And a sad part again, like Miles said, 95% of his family in China still take it, So we always struggling on this part, right? And even within our family, I don't know, you have your family, your friend.
Yes, same thing. And Victor's too, I know.
Everyone.
So it's this. What I draw from what you said, Mr. Sun, is people have to. It's a paradigm shift in their brain. You have to stop trusting authority blindly, right? Which I think the West has been conditioned to do that, and frankly, Lao Beijing and China has been conditioned, but in a different way, to do the same thing. You have to stop trusting authority. We have to start getting back to government for the people, and not the idea that people are slaves to government. So I think that's our time, 9:47, and I just wanted to go around. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please bring your family, friends and family next time. We're trying to bring up the show to good viewership numbers again after being absent from a time. Victor and Mr. Sun, do you have any closing comments, Mr. Victor? What do you think? Just say goodbye and.
Just don't take the vaccine and say no to the vaccine passport, and join us next week. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a Thursday at 7, and also we have another show on the Lens on the 12:30. So welcome. This is all English for those audience want to practically listen our English show. So welcome to our show.
All right, that's it for our show tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week or Thursday or Saturday on the other shows. Cheers.
Thank you. Good night.
Allied Afghanistan government to collapse and the Taliban to make their move on the capital city. The insurgents entered Kabul Sunday without a fight.
The camera has been trailing those fighters as they make their way through the halls of the Afghan presidential palace.
Taking control of the presidential palace as the Afghan president fled and foreign powers raced to pull their people out of a country in crisis. Helicopter after helicopter.
داخل میدان خواب گوش کنه برادر. یه اروپا وحشته که فعلا به کابل موجوده. زن و مرد، پیر و جوان، همگی.